Hello again. So today we are making steak and mashed potatoes, and first off we have the steak right here, which is a sirloin. It's thick cut, about maybe 2.5 centimeters thick. You want really thick steaks purely because of the fact that if you accidentally overcook it a tiny bit, these won't get damaged at all, won't go up to medium. However, if you have a thin steak, then it might not be good, as well as if you overcook about 10-15 seconds, it can go to the next level. So instead of medium rare, medium well done, you know? Next thing we're cooking, obviously mashed potatoes. I made this last video, but however, I'm planning to make these a bit creamier, a bit nicer. And also we are making a compound butter, just to put on the steak, and when it's done resting, we can then put this on and it tastes a lot better. Interestingly, one of the ingredients I'm using is ghee, and I'm not using oil to cook the steak. The reason why I'm using ghee is butter without milk solids, and if it doesn't have milk solids, this butter can burn so heavily and it won't taste bad or bitter. The milk solids make butter burn and taste really bitter. So this is very well for frying steaks at really high heat. Lastly, we are also making a small gravy. However, my gravy is going to consist of some stock I made a couple days ago, predominantly bone stock, and some leftover gravy I had from last video. The first thing you want to do is make your compound butter. You just want to take a bit of butter, get seasonings like oregano, mixed herbs, sage, garlic. You just throw them in there, and that's a really simple compound butter. You can add garlic, like real garlic shallots, anything. You don't need it for this, just something small and light. So now I've thrown my compound butter, made it, and put it in some cling film, made it into kind of a log. You want to throw this in your fridge for maybe 20 minutes to harden up. Next, you want to peel and cut your potatoes. I showed you how to do this in my other video, but if you don't know, take your peeler, cut them like that. Then once they're cut, you just want to chop them down like that, cut them into squares, cubes, and they should be about that big. So now I've got all my potatoes cut up in there in this pot. I'm about to go fill it with water, and you want to heat this up from cold, and you want to boil it for about 10 minutes. Okay, now, after a little bit, waiting for our potatoes to boil and everything, we now have our steak. What I'm going to do with this is I just patted it dry. I have my thyme, garlic, ghee, hollandaise sauce, the gravy for later, the stock. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to season it with some ground Himalayan sea salt and some oregano. I would season with black pepper and garlic powder, however I do not have my hands on any, so now I'm going to go do this. So now our potatoes have been boiled and I threw them into this pot. What we're going to do is we're going to take one of these, which is a potato masher, one of these which is just a standard spoon mixer, and we're going to mix in butter and milk, and this turns very, very thin and runny. So now we've mixed in our milk and butter, and our mash has become very smooth, very nice, very creamy, and we can use this for our steak later. And by that word, we're going to move on to the steak. Okay, so now we have our steak, very nicely seasoned, and we have our pan. What we're going to do is we're going to put this pan on very high heat, and what we're going to do is, once it's gotten to a good smoking point, we're going to put original ghee in, enough to cover the pan in a good amount of oil so that the steak can soak in the oil and get crispy. I will show you this in about maybe a minute. Now we've got a beautiful amount of that ghee in. You want to let that heat up for about 20 seconds till you can actively feel the heat on your hand. Then you want to throw this beautiful steak in. Now the oil's nice and hot, you want to get your steak in. So you want to put on these tongs so you're safe, and you want to let it rip. And once you hear that sizzle, you know you're doing something right. Now, like every normal person on this planet, you want to get this cooking medium rare. So I'd say for a thick piece like this, 2 to 2.5 minutes on each side should be good enough. Okay, so now I'll flip the steak. You want to leave this to rest on here for about another 1 minute. And then you want to throw in your butter, your garlic, and your thyme for aromatics and make it flavorful. And you want to butter baste it with this spoon right here. Good, nice, thick spoon to spray butter over the top. You want to butter baste it, so by throwing in your butter, aromatics, thyme, and you want to get this spoon and you want to butter baste it, like this. You want to take off the pan and baste it. And now you want to take your marvelous creation that you have just made and you want to leave it to rest for in between 5 to 8 minutes. You want to do this because when you cut this beauty open, what you're going to notice is if you don't do it, there's going to be a lot of juice rushing out. And you want that juice inside your steak to make sure it tastes really well. It's optional, however, I think it's great to pair this up with the beef dripping / gravy sauce, since not the best expert, you know, so a fine mix between the two is nice. So what I have in this pot already is spare gravy for another day when I again made beef stock gravy, but I've also added some spare water into here to add more volume. Now some extra ingredients I have is spare water just in case it gets extra thick. Now, the piece de resistance, the stock. This is some spare stock I have loads more, but this is all I need. And some extra gravy granules in case this doesn't turn out too well. Different point of view, I know. But this is the gravy once it's done. It's pretty thick, it's pretty nice. So I'm just going to use a spoon so I threw away my whisk. Look at that thick consistency. Now, I'm going to open up this steak, which you guys are going to see in a couple seconds. Now that, in my eyes, is a perfect medium rare. That is what you get with dedication, and all of you can do this if you just follow this recipe. Placing my steak here, I've turned it into rectangles. I'll put my mash here, the sauce all over, then I've taken a pot and poured my gravy in there. That is how you play a perfect steak. And thank you all for watching. Please, I'll make another video, tune into that.